Hello everyone, it's Nathan here at Nathan Studio. So welcome back. So today we are going to talk roof frames and roof trusses. And for that we will take a look at 7 examples of where this can be applied. And just to get you a quick update, we have in archicad a tool dedicated to roof frames, which you can find in design under roof extras. So you can see we have a roof maker here, and you can see we have rafters, multiple rafters, hip and valley rafters, and a bunch of all other stuffs. And then we can see a roof wizard right here, and you can also show a roof maker toolbox. But in order to access this toolbox, we need to be in the floor plan, because currently these things are grayed out because we are in the 3D. So for the trusses, we are going to go to design extras, and we can see a truss maker here. So we have created truss and edited truss, and this is going to be working in sections and elevation. So let's jump right in. So for the first example, we are going to try and use this gable roof. Like we said, you go to design, roof extras, and roof maker, and let's show the roof maker toolbox. So we can see we have this bunch of options that we can work with. So with this roof selected, all you want to do is to go to the roof wizard, which will automatically bring this thing, and you have a bunch of things to add to the roof you're making. First is the rafter. Here we can change the dimensions of those rafters and what they look like at the eave, for example, vertical, perpendicular, and rectangular. And as well, we can enable soffit if we do want to see the soffit there. And then we can have extra other options to deal with how archicad is going to develop all our rafters. After that, we have the beam, which beam has the collar beams and the tie beam. So there are a bunch of these things. So currently I'm not going to change a thing, so we are going to use just the defaults and see what archicad can and will create for us. So when we say okay, we can see we have ourselves that. Let's see what that looks like here in 3D. So here is what we have, and it looks really good. It's pretty convincing for me, and at this point all I have to do is to remove these extra rafters, which we may not have to create in real life, like these extreme ones. But this is pretty cool. I think I could go with this. So here you have it, an easy way to create rafters without, putting them manually in there. So for the next example, we want to look at the hip kind of thing, and let's see what archicad has for us. So this time let's change a few things. Let's make this 75 by 150. That's the rafter, and I like the vertical kind of eave. And then we can enable soffit such that we have that inward looking thing. And then the minimum distance between rafters, 700 is just fine, and a minimum of 100, maybe that's a bit too little, maybe minimum of 350, half of this. And add an extra rafter, well, of course that is fine, it can add. And I think the rest is fine for this. And then we go to the beams here. Instead of collar beams, I think let's use a tie beam for this. And how high is it from the ground? Well, it depends on how high your ceiling is, and in my case it should be about 3 meters. I will add 150 for the wall plate. And we have some purlins. That are going to be created for us. Those are the ones which are at the eave, which is fine, and the ones at the top as well. So we can as well make them 75 by 150. And we have trimmers going on here, fine. Also use the same dimension. And finally here we have a ridge. So For the ridges, yeah, they're going to be almost the same. So I'm go ahead and change that to a standard rafter that I have known for so long. And let's say okay and see what we have. So with those things that we have just created, I do think this looks pretty neat in the floor plan. So let's see what it looks like in 3D. And there it is, So for starters, we have ourselves a soffit which is at an angle. Perhaps you want that, perhaps you don't. And I think I don't like that rafter is at an angle. And do that, and we'll just go back and change this to 0 instead of 20. And when we say okay, now it should create for ourselves a pretty neat soffit which should be perpendicular to the walls. I think that looks much better for my case, but as well you can choose whatever you want. And going inside here, I think this is pretty cool, although we do not have the rafters which start from somewhere here. So you might want to go in and multiply some of these rafters, and I think this tie beam needs to be duplicated to the rest of these other things. So I'll do that real quick. So in order to appreciate the tie beams inside, let's mark you a section of this huge section. I press F5 to go into 3D, and now we should have ourselves something here. This is really decent because then we can see that we have a tie beam and the framing, and then now this is going to take us to the next section, part of this that we are trying to do, and that's how to create the trusses. So for the trusses, let's pick a section because it's going to be very, very useful. So there we are. We draw ourselves a simple section, and let's try and see what that looks like. So by default we have something like this, and we know that this is the tie beam, and we want to be able to create something here, and we're going to create the most common type of truss, which is a king post. So for the king post, all we need is to draw some lines to show how it's going to sit. So I imagine a king post coming all the way to the middle of this. And how do I get the middle of here? What I like to do is, let me make this red so you can see it. What I like to do is to have a line here which is this deep, and I'm going to take this back just a little bit with that as the guideline to 100. So that's the king post, and Ctrl+Shift+E to rotate a copy at around 45 degrees, perhaps. Yeah, 45, and perhaps it should go all the way to the middle, something like that. That will work for us. And let's mirror a copy by Ctrl+Shift+M. So with those three lines selected, we want to go to design, like we did say, design extras, and we have a truss maker here. So we say create truss, and there we are. We have ourselves this dialog box. So first of all is the representation. What do we want it to look like? Perhaps a pen number 2 here will work for us. And the surface, what the surface will look like, and we will just use a normal wood material that is already in the 3D. And you can choose hollow or I section. I'm going to keep it as a timber frame, as a timber construction, and we are going to put in the dimensions in here. So like we did before, I think this should be a little bit smaller. So the width is going to be 50 and the height about 75, I guess. So that's it. That's all. So when I say okay, it is going to be created, and truss one will work for us, just a name. And there we are, it has been created. The new truss object has been created on the floor plan, and we are going to see it also in the section. So there we are, we have it done. And even here in the floor plan, it's just along this section, and all we have to do is to move it to the part that we want to see it. So I'm gonna get hold of it and move it to place, make a copy for a bunch of options here, so like 3 of them. So let's see what they look like right now. This is really good. Isn't that really good? I think it is. So that's the basics of creating yourself a truss and a roof frame. So up next, let's try this thing on a gable roof. So with the roof selected, like we did say before, click on the roof wizard, and good enough, it still remembers the things that we did make, so we don't have to go them all over again. So now we can say just okay, and it will do its thing. And there we are, we have ourselves the frame for this kind of thing. So if we go in 3D, here is what we have, and it's pretty decent. I like it. And for this kind of thing, let's try out a different kind of truss. Like we did before, pick a section and draw one over here. So this is the second section we have made, and we want to be able to see what it looks like. And here it is. So for this, we want to try out a different kind of truss, which is going to be inverted truss. So perhaps it's going to start from here, coming all the way down at 45 degrees to somewhere like here, and we will make it red so you can see it, something like that, and mirror a copy by Ctrl+Shift+M from the center here and have something like that. And it is not looking quite good, so I'm going to pick the middle here, and I will make them come down here, and these ones as well. I think that will work. That does work. You can do whatever shape or webs you want in order to create this truss. Of course, if the span was a bit longer, we would need more webs for these kinds of truss. So with everything I've created selected, go to design extras, and then you have the truss maker here, create truss. And like we said before, you change the pen to, for representation's sake, and give it the color that you want to see in 3D, and go into the truss profile and give in the dimensions that you prefer to have. We did choose 50 by 75, and that's all there is to it. When you say okay, it will be created. You say save, and it has been created both here on the floor plan and in 3D. So now you definitely just have to move it to where you do need to see it. And of course, I could mark you here just to highlight what it looks like. There is what it looks like. And because this is a Dutch roof, we do not have the tie beams created, so we might need a tie beam here because this is pretty unrealistic. So we'll go ahead and do that again. So in the section, we want to pick another line, so let's make this one blue. Well, I imagine the center is going to be at about the height of 75, and it should stop somewhere, just for reference's sake. These ones as well need to stop somewhere. Well, definitely we have to delete this. and have these here. So with your profile selected, design extras, and we have a truss maker here, create a truss, and this time you can see we have those two pens. So you can, in the attributes, choose whatever you want and the surface you want to see. And here in the pens, the blue one is going to be a little bit thicker, so I'll make it 75 by 100. This one I'll make it 50 by 75, and that's pretty cool. And when we say okay, that should be formed as, and when we say okay, you can see that we have something going on, both here in the floor plan and both here in the section and in the floor plan, together with the 3D, I believe, but we need to move this to where it's supposed to be just by Control D, by dragging it to place. All right, so let's see. That's much better. So if we make a couple more copies, you can see where we're going with this. It's pretty cool. If I try to overlay with another 3D style, like a white model, you can see what we are talking about. This is really powerful. So a combination of those two tools, you can be able to create any sort of thing that you want. But as you have noticed before, we have a few issues which arise, especially if we want to make the thing look perfect, because we can see that here we have some uneven distances. So sometimes you just don't want to have uneven distances in your framing. So how do we get it to be uniform? So the way you could do that is by creating one frame at a time or one padding at a time. So let's create multiple rafters at a time. So with that selected, we can say okay and click on the place we want to place those rafters. So now we can see that that face is going to have this rafter which has this section. So like we said before, it was 75 by 150. All right, so that's it. And we can decide how it's going to end vertically. Yes, that's fine. It's going to be vertical also at the eave. That's totally okay. And now we can see how here that we can make it a fixed distance for every rafter, such that we do not have issues of rafters that are not equally placed. So when we say okay and we go ahead and click across that roof, we should have something going on here which is evenly placed, like you can see here. So archicad has calculated that for us, and that means that if we wanted to also put here in this other second roof, because this is a mansard roof, we want to click on multiple rafters. Yes, select this roof, and now we can see the things that we ended are still there, and we have this fixed distance that we need, and we say okay. And now this time we want to be able to move from there all the way there, and you can see that that is being placed in perfectly without the uneven distances that we were seeing. So you can go ahead and do all those things simultaneously like that, and click onto the roof, say okay, and place those things. You don't have to follow a straight line. As long as you draw within the area, it will do the same thing that we did. But in this case, I need them to reach this other side, so I will repeat the same thing. Click onto this roof, say okay, and then I'm going to have them spread all the way out up to there, and that looks pretty decent. Do it again and have that selected, and we can click onto this rafter to this one, such that we have more rafters right there. So in order to save some time, I might need to mirror this because this will be a nightmare. I believe they are objects, so I'll click object and Ctrl A to select all of them, Ctrl Shift M to mirror them once and twice. I think I need to also mirror from the center here. Yeah, that's perfect. That's really perfect. And as well, we need some purlins, I guess. So we need some purlins across here. Yeah, it's a top purlin like we did before. You can put in the dimensions that you do like to see. So okay, and it should be placed in there. That one. That's a bit tedious and it makes a lot of noise because of error messages. So you don't want to do this yourself, but you get the point. And for now, let's see what we have created so far. And I believe this is pretty neat because you can see that the spacings of all these are really convincing, really quite good. Yeah, and you can see some of these rafters have been formed in wrong places. We can always re-put them in the next position. Next, we have a shed roof. So the shed roof is pretty simple. So we select the roof wizard and everything else is done for us already. And let's see what we have by default. Here we have something like this, and I do not think that this makes sense. We can get rid of it. So all I need is something like this here in 3D. Yeah, we have ourselves a nice shed roof. And if we do happen to want purlins which go sideways, it's pretty easy to create them because we have a tool for that, which is for purlins. And good enough, you can rotate the purlins to follow where those rafters are going. So all you have to do is to click that and put them in different positions. And I think the best thing is to have a guideline for this. So let's pick a line, which we can do here in document, and that's the overall distance, but perhaps we want the rafters to start from somewhere like here and end somewhere like there. And then we need to divide this line using the snap guide to 6 divisions. Do those look nice? I think they do. So let's delete this rafter that we created before, and let's do some rafters, some cool rafters, so some cool purlins. So there we have it. Make sure it's rotated and place the first one in here. Click again, make sure it's rotated and put it right here. I will do for the rest of these others. And let's see what it looks like. So we had that and we added those purlins. Well, perhaps I don't need them below. Maybe, is that how they put them? I think they would be better be on the top. Whichever you do choose, you are the designer of this, because personally I like to put this stuff above, because I imagine if I were using roofing sheets, yeah, I would need them on top. So I'm gonna try that real quick. That's good. Next, we have ourselves a butterfly. So butterfly, there's one special thing about the butterfly. Yes, butterflies have issues with this thing. So let's just use a roof wizard. Say okay and see what the roof wizard has for us. So we have a pretty decent one. Let's see what it looks like here in 3D. So here on the butterfly, the rafters are not doing the things that they're supposed to do. Well, that's because if we go back here in the floor plan and select one of these rafters, well, of course we cannot select unless we suspend group. So and suspend the group, so we can select one of these. Here you can see it's on, if we go to the settings, it's on 0 degrees, and if we try to put in a negative gradient, it's not going to work, because then they just don't work with negative degrees. So the best thing to approach, the best way to do this is to reorient them. So just select all of them. So I'm going to do that and pick my object tool, Ctrl A to select all those rafters, and then Ctrl M to mirror them. So we need them mirrored such that they should accept the 10 degrees. So now that they are mirrored, we need to have them at 10 degrees, and that should solve our problem, right? So let's go here and see what that looks like. Well, that's more like what we need, right? So for some of you who are confused what else we have been doing, so let's just select one of these and just put it at 10 degrees, and you see that they are in the opposite direction. So let's say 10, yeah, and then we look at what it looks like here in 3D. And yeah, you can see it's in the wrong direction, obviously. So all you have to do is mirror them. So let's select them, Ctrl A, select all of these, Ctrl M to mirror. Drag again into place, and in the settings just put in the 10 degrees. I hope we are together about these butterfly roofs. And obviously all of this stuff is in the wrong plane, so it might be wise to select all of them and move them downward to the place they are supposed to be. Select object, Ctrl A, and move them, not this one, not this guy. All right, so there you are. Perhaps you may not need that soffit, so you might need to take it off. So finally, this one here should be by far the easiest, because it's a polygonal kind of roof. Like we did say, it's everything else the way it is. Perhaps we don't need a soffit for this one. We say okay, and there we have it. So that's majorly it. If we see it in 3D, archicad creates it for us neatly, much more neatly than the rest of other things. So thanks so much for watching, and like if you do like, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.